Hi there, Tom, and thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me today. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about your expertise on the areas of nutrition and sleep and how they relate to a person's ability to burn fat. Before we get started, could you tell me about what you do?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me along. Before I talk about what I do now, it's probably good to look back at what I used to do. So I started off working as a chef, or trained and worked as a chef for a number of years. My exercise, nutrition, everything slipped off, started getting a bit overweight, and so really wanted to get back into what I was originally like, with the eating well and exercising a lot. So went and studied personal training. So I started personal training and started working at Les Mills, and after about 6 months I realised that prescribing the best exercise program in the world, or the nutrition program, wasn't getting my clients the results that I wanted because, well, they just weren't doing it. So what I started studying from there was wellness coaching and coaching clients into and how to best prescribe these exercises for them, and then how can I get them to actually want to do them. So after I'd done that, I started getting some good results with my clients, and that's how I went on through personal training. And about 3 years ago, me and a couple of other guys went out on our own and started a company called Corporate Wellness Solutions. So I've been there pretty much ever since. And
It's crazy how much we know about health these days, but that we don't often do what we actually know. So for example, most people know that it's a healthier choice to eat an apple rather than a cookie, or it's a healthier choice to have a homemade sandwich rather than a Big Mac, but actually getting people to do those things can be sometimes quite difficult. So it's really fantastic to hear that you work on the behaviour change side of things.
yeah, you're 100% right. It is more about getting people to do it, or how they can actually do those things. We all know that, like you said, an apple is better than Moro, but why aren't we choosing those things? So when you can get the why sorted, then it makes it a lot easier for the people to achieve the actual goals that they're setting with you.
Cool. So let's get into our nutrition questions. My first question that I've got for you is what would you consider are the 3 most important aspects of nutrition if your number one objective is to burn fat?
Yeah, the number one thing I think for people, for my clients, is to really determine what their goal is and make it realistic, because we can only burn fat at a certain speed. So if our goal is to lose fat and we lose 10 kgs in the first 3 weeks, it's not genetically possible for us to do that as a human. So what we've done essentially is deteriorated a lot of muscle tissue. So the negative behind that is, yes, that's great, we've lost lots of weight, which is exciting, but what we've in turn is slowed our metabolism down from not having the muscle tissue now.
Probably be a bit flabbier too, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we need as much muscle tissue as possible, really. So by burning that muscle tissue down, that's when we get that cycle where people will lose 5 kgs, gain 7 kgs, lose 7 kgs, gain 13 kgs, and the cycle will continue. So we really need to make sure that we do know that when losing fat and fat only, slow it down a little bit and make sure that it is quite realistic. Which is my number one. Secondly is just tracking. I always get my clients to track stuff because everybody's different. So if we have it written down and things aren't working as well as what we wanted, but we prescribe something, then we can look back and try from there. But if we don't track it, we don't actually know.
So is that like using a food diary?
Food diary of some form. It doesn't have to be even that accurate, but it's just tracked in some way so we can manipulate it from there. I think it's essential no matter what the goal, but especially for fat loss, because marketing today, I think it's altering what people think a little bit. Like, we could have 100% fat free on sugar, which is correct, but if you don't know that, people can be eating anything to say, oh, it's fat free, it's fine, it's all good, but it's still straight sugar, so we're still going to gain fat from it. So
yeah, most of the most marketed foods are quite often the worst ones for us as well.
For sure, yeah, natural bars and so on, and people think, oh, that's great, it's natural, it's good for me. So if I can actually have a look at that with my clients and educate them about those things that aren't really that good for them, would be number 2. And the last one would be, people, I think, try too hard. They cut down their diet, or with the amount of calories they're eating way too much, exercise way too much, and the body just rejects it. So it starts sending out cravings for different foods, or the body starts getting too sore, and then we give up 2 weeks later. We start off with a hiss and a roar, but we're back at KFC or McDonald's 3 weeks later. So it is really making sure that you're on the right path. You go in decent steps and not just go 2 guns blazing.
So taking small steps.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, be patient with it, because it'll happen over time.
Okay, so just to reiterate those points again, so number one is to be realistic.
Be realistic and actually know what you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
Which is possible without deteriorating muscle tissue.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, would be to making sure that we are logging it so we can make changes as we go through. And then lastly, just don't overdo it. Just be patient.
Don't try too hard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. Simple advice, and I hope our listeners will put those tips into practice. So my next question on nutrition is, I mean, I know that normal healthy eating is the most important consideration if your objective is to burn fat. But would you consider that there are any supplements or herbs or any special foods that would be safe for the majority of people and that would help them to assist their body's ability to burn fat?
Yeah, it's a good question. I get that one a lot because people want a quick pill rather than putting in the hard yards. And the first thing I do say to clients is, if with the fat burning pills out there, unless your body fat is extremely low, they won't do anything. Mm-hmm. So most people that are in a normal weight category even still not going to do anything, so there's no really need for them. I know myself, I've tried probably all of them just to see how things work, and the body fat has to be extremely low for it to make a difference. Mm-hmm. The natural things, or the things that I use, I mean, I drink a lot of green tea that helps with metabolism and as well. I mean, I drink a lot of green tea actually, so double bag that. Other things that I know people will use chilies and spices as well, just to that creates a temperature change as well for burning fat. Any products that I would use, I do use carnitine though. I combine that with fish oil in the mornings, but that's the only supplement that I would actually.
Can you explain what carnitine does?
Carnitine is helps the body use fat as energy, so especially visceral fat, which is fat around the abdomen. Mm-hmm. So specifically, it's found in things like steak as well, but again, if you are looking for a supplement, you can just get a pill form, but I also like steak as well. Right. So what it does is, helps your body use fat better, so it actually will use it as a energy source. And is
that something that's safe for the majority of people to use?
Yeah, yep. So that there is a natural product that comes from meat. So if they're a derivative from a natural food, it will be fine. But
would you just get that from a health shop?
Yeah, you can get them from health shops easy enough. It comes in a liquid form or a tablet form. So.
Yeah, and you mentioned green tea as well. So I know green tea's got a little bit of caffeine in it, and you say you drink lots of green tea. So do you find that affects getting to sleep at night and things like that, or?
Well, you can get caffeine-free green teas as well. Right. So, but to clear that up, I don't. No, I don't have any troubles with it. It is still quite mild in the caffeine department. Yeah. Caffeine's actually another one that's actually been shown to actually help burn body fat as well. But that's not why I have green tea. But no, I've never had any troubles with it. I don't drink coffee or anything either though. But
yeah, I think the key is that you're probably taking it in a small enough amount compared to the amount of caffeine that you'd even get in one.
Short black or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, not sure of the exact numbers, but I would suspect that a cup of green tea's probably got about a third of the caffeine as a cup of coffee.
Of that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. One last question on supplements. So I know that a lot of people are taking protein powder to help them, burn fat. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I do recommend a higher protein diet. With the protein powders, it's just more about convenience for me. I'd still recommend to my clients, if they can, eat meats or other proteins that are natural products. I do still recommend proteins if people are in a hurry. It's still better to have that than nothing, or that than a cheeseburger. Okay. And it's just, if somebody's just finishing a workout, it is a lot easier to have a protein shake rather than a bit of chicken or a bit of steak in your bag. It's just convenience. So protein's
a very important consideration in terms of burning fat, but we are able to get enough protein just from a normal healthy diet, but in 100%. Reality with our lifestyles, we're rushing from place to place, a protein shake is a very convenient way.
Yeah, it's an acceptable way indeed.
Yeah, so we wouldn't want that to replace real food, would we? But
no, we still need our bodies to be able to digest properly. That's what other meats we have to do. We have to break it down. Protein powders get into the bloodstream really fast, which is also good after workout because it gets the protein to our muscles fast. But again, like you say, we wouldn't have it as instead of.
Yeah, as you say, it's an easy way to, go out into your day being prepared to eat quite well, because if you didn't have something like that on hand, then you might be likely to grab for that Big Mac.
Like for sure. Once you're hungry, choices are limited. You're in a hurry and want to find whatever you can get your hands on. So
Yeah. Okay, so also in terms of nutrition, what are the biggest problems that you see with nutrition when people's objective is to burn fat?
Marketing and knowledge, I'll still rave on about marketing quite a lot to my clients because they can literally say whatever they want to an extent. They can say it's the healthy burger, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And a client, if they can't read the nutritional information on the back, they can be a little bit lost there. So I think that's a big thing that I try to educate with my clients on how to actually do that so they don't get suckered in.
Yeah.
And the other one would be just diets in general. I do think they have their place, but doing them on a regular basis or picking one to... I know a lot of them these days I've seen have changed. It's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change, which they're still the same thing. They've just changed how they're talking about it. But they can't be sustained through general life. So I always say to my clients, if you're going to try to reach a target, you need to be able to sustain what you did to get that goal afterwards. So don't go, I'm going to cut down to 500 calories a day and run for 4 days a week, because as soon as you stop doing that, then you'll get the negative effect of what you've just been doing. Yeah, something's changing, so something will change on you as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a fan of the diet word, I guess, because it implies restriction as well. So it implies taking things away, and it's just not really a sustainable way to eat. Yeah, so what are, I guess, the things that you would recommend that people have in their nutritional regime, just normal healthy foods that are going to assist their body's ability to burn fat? Or what would the, makeup of a typical meal look like to you? Yeah.
So again, for myself and probably for my clients, there'll be quite a dramatic difference. I'm a little bit strange with my eating, but whenever I'm doing a presentation to a group or anything, I do just tell them how basic it actually is. Like, as a human, we need fresh fruits and vegetables every day. We need good quality cuts of meats every day, some nuts and seeds, and that's pretty much...
It's really simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We don't need to get into the complication of we need 42 grams of protein and 23 grams of carbs. It's not that complex. Just eat fresh meats and vegetables
until you've had enough.
Yeah. And when you get to eat as much as you like of it, really, you just won't be able to eat enough calorie to overeat, and it is as simple as that.
And I'm quite interested to know, you said that you're a bit different. So how does your diet different from that, or your nutritional regime? Again, I said I don't like that word diet.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep. So I get up at 5 in the morning to start work, as most trainers probably do. So the first thing I have is a bit of steak and some nuts for breakfast.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah, that is
some vegetables. So at work at 5:30, people are looking at me a bit strange with a cold piece of steak and some nuts. But The studies on that is the first thing that the stomach gets, and the first thing that gets into the stomach is what the body will predominantly use for energy sources. So adding protein and fats, your body will burn that throughout the day more often. So if we use cereals or carbohydrates, then our body will predominantly want that for the rest of the day. So that's the theory behind that. I've been doing that for a number of years now, so it's not strange to me. Also juice a lot, because I don't really like eating vegetables. The taste of vegetables. I do eat them, force feed them, but I make sure I do get enough of them, because we do need a lot to get our requirements. So a good juicer and plenty of juice.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting about having the steak for breakfast. And again, I think that goes back to marketing and things, though. We're marketed to be told that we eat cereal and toast for breakfast, which are not typically healthy options to be eating. But, other cultures around the world, they don't necessarily eat cereal and toast, and the nutritional goodness that you're getting from your steak. I like that you said you had your veggies as well, some nuts and seeds, was it?
Yeah. Have some almonds generally.
Yeah, so that's creating a very balanced meal in terms of your protein, a bit of carbohydrates from your vegetables, and a bit of fat as well from those nuts. So.
Yeah, the breakfast cereals, like you say, it's they're called breakfast cereals in theory, so most people have them for breakfast. But the only time I'd actually recommend them is post-workout, when their body's actually burning calories at a higher rate.
They're actually quite high in carbohydrates and sugars, aren't they?
Really high. So,
Okay, well, let's move into a slightly different area, nutrition. So what I would like to know is there a relationship between food sensitivities and a person's ability to burn fat?
Yep. Yep, so food sensitivities will have an impact just on the way your body functions in general. So everything will be impaired if the body isn't able to thrive in the natural way that it's supposed to. So yeah, it'll make a huge difference. I know there's a lot of the population now have tolerances with gluten or dairy and other things like that. So if we are intolerant to that, our stomach or our gut lining will swell. So that's going to cause us to not be able to process the food very well. What happens when we do that is the body gets into survival mode, which causes cortisol. So what cortisol does, that's responsible for a lot of bad things: anxiety, depression, weight gain, stress, just a lot of
generally
that.
Stress hormone.
For sure,
it?
yeah. So if the gut is stressed, then it's going to do the same thing and start sending signals to store fat for emergencies. We can't choose what our emergency situation is; it'll just store fat every time. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you think people would know what sort of food sensitivities they have? And once they've figured that out, what would you recommend that they do about that?
Well, okay, so what I'd recommend they do once they do know is stop eating it first and foremost, because I think...
Like forever, or...?
Yeah, I think what happens generally if someone is slightly intolerant to gluten as an example, and they stop eating gluten, when they do have it again after a year or so, their body will reject it more than what they did because they don't have an intolerance.
Oh, wow.
They haven't built up an intolerance to it, so they'll know straight away. Their stomach will be more bloated. They will be less comfortable because of that. So I would recommend stopping it completely. But I mean, that's people will still have bits and pieces, the same as I'll say, don't eat lollies, but I'll still have lollies, and every now and then that is fine, but that would still be my recommendation, to not have any. Finding out, there's a lot of ways. If you eat dairy and you get a sore stomach, you're probably intolerant. Same with gluten. If you start to get swelling in your stomach or gassy or bloated, you probably have intolerance. Eggs do the same thing. If people have too many, they can get quite gassy.
Yeah.
There might be just too many, or you can have intolerance. So from there, you can just go get tested relatively easily.
So I guess you could sort of figure it out yourself by writing down how you felt after a meal. So if you did feel bloated or gassy, or if you felt really tired, I guess that foods can have that effect as well. But I guess that we're eating a combination of many foods in one meal, so it can be quite hard to pinpoint what it was. So there's a lot of, places out there that I know that you can get hair analysis done and things like that, and skin analysis as well to figure out what those are.
Yeah, definitely. And that's again going back to the tracking your nutrition. If you're thinking, I always get a sore stomach at 2 o'clock, you can actually just go back and see what you're eating around the few hours beforehand.
Many people are creatures of habit, aren't they? They're eating the same things every day, so
it's generally about 70%, I think. And your groceries are about 70% the same each week. So
That's great. Well, thank you so much for all your nutritional wisdom, Tom. And
that's right.
We're going to move on to a different area now. So I want to talk about sleep. Okay, so people may or may not be aware that a lack of sleep can affect their body's ability to burn fat. So I was just wondering if you can explain whether a lack of sleep does affect us or not. Yep.
Yeah, sleep's a funny one because we all want more of it, but most people don't get nowhere near enough of it. It's not something we make time for, I guess. But the same as with the intolerance with the stomach, if we're not sleeping properly, it'll affect us in every way. Our body can't function properly without it. So I talked about cortisol a little bit before. So our cortisol levels are dropped when we sleep as the body repairs itself. So if we're not getting enough sleep, our cortisol levels never drop. Therefore, we can stay in that survival mode of storing fat the whole time. Their body can't repair its muscle tissue, which that also helps burn fat, having that muscle tissue there. So by not getting enough, it's probably more detrimental than most people would imagine. So that would be one of the things I definitely look at with my clients when I ask about their stress and stuff as well. How much sleep are we getting?
And how much should we be getting, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Because most people, when I ask that, they're saying 7-8 hours, but it doesn't really matter on the amount of hours. It has to do with the quality of sleep. So we need to get 4 hours of deep sleep each night.
Doesn't sound like much.
No, it doesn't. But it takes a good few hours to get into that deep sleep and a good few hours to come out of that deep sleep. So if it takes 4 hours in that sleep, but we have 2 hours going in, 2 hours going out, then there's a lot more than 4 hours. And what also happens is if we're in that deep sleep and someone knocks on the door or the phone rings, we get woken out of it, then it's going to take us that 2 hours to get back into that deep sleep.
Yeah.
So that's why most people, if they have a broken sleep at all, they probably never got the 4 hours of their refreshing sleep that we actually need to repair ourselves properly.
Yeah, and I think some people probably aren't getting into that deep sleep at all because they're doing things like having a lot of caffeine throughout the day or taking the stresses of the day to bed with them as well. So they're going to sleep, but they're probably not getting anywhere near that 4 hours of deep sleep.
Yeah, because it sounds easy, doesn't it? 4 hours, it's a piece of cake. But like you're saying, if you're stressed going to bed, you've just had 3 cups of coffee and the lights have been in your eyes, then it will take a long time to get into that deep sleep. So.
Yeah. And are there sort of optimal times that we should be going to sleep and waking up in the morning?
Yep, definitely. So what happens with sleep? We haven't evolved much since caveman, so we in theory should go to sleep when the sun goes down, wake up when the sun comes up. We don't have that advantage generally because you can't just...
Does that mean we should sleep longer in the winter?
It does. But what would happen is we can't just go to work and be like, oh, the sun didn't come up till the next 2 hours this morning. Your boss won't be happy about that.
No.
So again, we don't have that convenience anymore, but that is how we'd ideally do it. You can manipulate it a little bit by starting to dim down your lights an hour or so before bed. So then your body's starting to shut down slowly. That will help you get into that deep sleep faster. And then same in the mornings, rather than just getting up and turning the light on when it's pitch black, that will stimulate the brain too quickly. Right. So if you do have some way of like just pulling the curtains and getting some light in and letting it slowly build will definitely help with being more refreshed in the mornings.
Okay, so go to bed when the sun goes down and
ideally try to do that, if possible. Yeah.
And so what sort of advice could you give to shift workers perhaps who have to work overnight and then sleep during the day? Yeah,
shift workers have got it rough. It's not good for the health at all. There's nothing optimal that's going to be beneficial, but the recommendations that I can give them is just make it as dark as humanly possible in the room when they do get home, trying to have natural lights coming in, and the same thing when they you're trying to change your sleep cycle, so have it nice and light when you're up, even if it is dark, keep the light going because you can slowly adapt it. But
and I guess those people need to be really great with their nutrition and things like that as well.
Even more so because like say you're taking out one element that the body needs, so if you haven't got everything else sorted, you'll start to fade pretty quickly.
What about tips for new mums like me who might be getting woken up multiple times during the night?
Okay, no science behind this, but we haven't evolved a lot again, I would say. So it's still a natural thing for a mother to have to do. That the baby is going to wake up. That's just a fact,
that
and
makes me feel
better. You're not going to get as much sleep. So I assume hormonally you're programmed in some way to be able to cater with it. But that's
I just have to deal with it.
The only other option I'd say is get Colin in there.
Okay, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Tom. You've shared lots of wisdom with us today on the areas of nutrition and sleep, and I'm sure that our listeners will have lots of tips to put into practice straight away to help them in their goal to burn fat. So let's finish by you just telling us where we can find out more about what you do.
Yep, so you can find out more about what we do at www.corporatewellness.com.
Okay, so that's corporatewellness.com. That's great. Thanks very much, Tom.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's good.
You're welcome, and I will catch you again next time.
Excellent. Thank you.